Hello and welcome to the Main Cave. In today's video I'm going to take a look at a keyboard from a company you may have associated with controllers for the PC or the Nintendo Switch. This here is the Nyxi Striker Retro mechanical keyboard, and over the past few weeks I've been using it, and although it gives off a colourful appearance, it has some decent features that may be worth a look. So if you're new here, we make regular videos on gaming and technology for your smart home, so please do consider subscribing, as we may make a video to make your life easier and I wouldn't want you to miss out. So do hit subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. So here it is then, Nyxi's first venture into the keyboard scene. Now looking on the website, there's not much mention of it being predominantly a gaming keyboard, but more for typing. So I got about testing it for both anyway, and I'm going to share you my experiences. So first off the bat then, this keyboard really reminds me of the 8-bit Do mechanical keyboard I reviewed a while ago. In fact, so much so, the Nyxi website is promoting it almost identically. But that's not a bad thing, as I really did like the 8-bit Do, but my one complaint was it didn't come with red switches. Well, the Nyxi does, but more on that later. So let's start off with the unboxing then. It's nicely packaged and comes with a very high quality matching purple aviator cable, 5 spare brown and 5 blue switches, a keycap puller and a manual. It's all nicely boxed, so no complaints there. And the keyboard is mostly plastic, and I'll talk to you about how it fares when put under pressure later. It's 39cm wide, 16cm deep, and from 2.5cm to 5cm high. The keyboard is a 97 key layout, and as you'll see, it's in the US layout, and that's because this keyboard is only available in the US at the time of recording. There's a top row of FN keys, keypad to the right, and if you look closely, the keycaps have written on them their FN functions, which saves looking in the manual every time you want to do a special function. If you've seen my past video on the 8-bit Do retro keyboard, this definitely gives off the same sort of vibes, what with the predominantly purple keys with added red, yellow and grey colouring. The battery side is a 4000 mAh, and I haven't been scientific in it, as though I've never really needed to worry about battery. There is a nice touch where the FN key and the plus key gives you a light indication of how much battery is remaining 1 to 9. I've never run out of battery, but I do have it wired most of the time, or at the very least have it plugged in every few days. Once out, you can connect it to pretty much anything you need to, with like Windows, macOS and iOS compatibility out of the box. And to connect to these, you can use a cable, the included 2.4 dongle or Bluetooth, all selected using the switch at the top. Now worth noting here that you can have up to 3 Bluetooth devices stored, and you flick between them freely with a couple of key presses. As before, it's Windows layout, but the appropriate keys have their Mac counterpart written on the bottom to help when connecting to iOS or macOS. As I said, I usually use it wired, but when I do use it dongle, it connects to the PC very fast. I'd say almost instantly it's turned on. Now on the back is the USB dongle housing and the USB-C port for charging. The underside is the adjustable feet for 3 positions, and on the right side is the on-off switch, and the top right is the infinity volume scroll wheel and mode switch. The volume wheel works well and has a nice subtle feedback when scrolling. Whilst we're up here then, the most standout part of this keyboard is the yellow dot matrix display. I'll talk about more how about customising it in the software section, but for now it's basically a 9x9 display that, well, it just displays stuff. That's literally it, no function for it, which would have been nice. So now onto the keycaps and the switches. As I said before, it's all red switches on this out of the box, and I couldn't find anywhere that stated what type these are, but the jersey engraving on them is a giveaway. I haven't used this type before, but if it's not for you, you can just easily swap them out using the included tool. The keycaps are ABS, and I can't tell how they'll fare for a few months yet. My only issue with them really at the moment is they aren't shine through. I'd have liked that, but again, you could just change these out to the others of your preference. So I spent a few weeks gaming on this, and although I don't believe it's the main purpose, it fared okay. Now there's a selling point to this keyboard to help with typing fatigue, and this may not be for you when gaming, but fortunately it didn't hinder me too much, and that's that it's springy and spongy. I'll talk about that in a second. And also the rollover really helped, and although it could never compare to my rapid response, I was pleasantly surprised at the performance of this keyboard. It was comfortable, fluid, and overall decent enough, even with the gasket board, which leads me nicely onto typing. So then, for the business then, this fared very well. Typing was easy, and the advertised springy gasket, as I mentioned before, was noticeable. Amazingly, it did appear to help with fatigue, as you can see, the board kind of springs up and down when typing. And having the keyboard in the 97 key layout, you will need a bigger desk than mine to fit it on, what with the number pad on the side. Probably best I do a sound test now, so here it is then with a sound with all of the red switches. So let's talk about RGB. It has under key RGB, and all the keycaps, as I said, don't shine through, which can be easily fixed just by swapping them out to ones you prefer. But this has the downside of losing the extra information on the FN functions, Bluetooth, OS, etc. The RGB has 22 different modes which can be changed on the board or in the software. It's nice and bright, and as with most RGB on a keyboard, I use it day one, then leave it as it is, and most likely never change it again. Right, onto the software now, which has quite a few features. You download it from Nyxi's website, and it is Windows only, so download it, get it installed, and fire it up. Once open, you get a plethora of options to customize your board. Firstly, the main screen has options to change the keys, and down the bottom under Other Settings is a useful feature to set timeouts for when connected to Bluetooth or the dongle. Then the next menu is FN Settings, which is the same as the main settings with all things like macros and mapping onto the FN plus other keys. Macros for here, if you want to change any of the macros on your board, you can. The next along is here where you change the yellow screen on the keyboard. Curiously though, the software has a 9x9, but on the actual keyboard it's missing the 4 corners. And although every setting can be uploaded wirelessly, you need to be connected with a cable to upload your own pixel picture to the keyboard. Next along is RGB with speed, brightness, color, etc. And once you're happy, you can save your config or download one from another user. Then at the end, it's about here where you can update the app and your keyboard firmware. Down the bottom right of the app is where your profiles can be switched in the software, so you can have multiple saved. I've played about with the software as much as I need, as I don't really have the need for macros and mapping, but if you do, then this thing will have you covered. I just wish it did it in a more user-friendly way. So then it's probably about time that I mention some negatives then about the Striker, and the most glaring one is the yellow box. It's literally there for show and nothing else. I'd like to have seen it in a bit more information rather than just a white pattern, as the first thing I did was change it from a distracting flashing pattern to either a static lettering or even off. Also, this style of this keyboard is very polarizing. I really like the purple design, but if it's not for you, there is no other color alternative. And finally, the software really could do with a bit of a redesign, as I got lost several times trying to do basic functions. So overall then, the Nyxi Striker then has a lot of positives, some nice features wrapped up in a package at a pretty competitive price for similar keyboards, I'd say. As I mentioned before, it's along the lines of the 8-bit Do retro keyboard, and if you're someone who just wants something a little bit different and doesn't want to splash out on double this on a serious competitive play mechanical keyboard, then this could be for you. I've really enjoyed my few weeks with this board, and the positives really do far outweigh the negatives. And if you want one yourself, I've left links in the description of where you can get hold of one. I hope that's everything. If you've got anything, let me know. Please do like and subscribe. Until the next video. Bye bye.